Okay, so our next property is what do you do when you're dividing powers? So what does that look like? Looks like a to the m divided by a to the n. How do we combine those?
I think you subtract away.
You do. So we'll have a to the m minus n, and it does matter. Has to be the top exponent minus the bottom one. So if we look at a problem like k to the 6th j squared divided by k j to the 5th. So what's our exponent on k, on the denominator? 1. So we're going to have k to the 6 minus 1 power and j to the 2 minus 5 power. 6 minus 1 is 5. 2 minus 5 is negative 3. And this kind of leads us to our next property. I'm just going to put it right over here. What do we do with a negative exponent to make it positive? Does anyone remember what we did for that? Chase? We make it 1 over a to the positive. And so if it was in the denominator, so let's say it was 1 over a to the negative n, we'd move it to the top to make it positive. So you just move the negative exponent to the other side of your fraction and it'll turn that exponent positive. So with where we left off on this one, the j has a negative exponent. So how do we make that positive? We keep the k to the 5 on top, but we move j to the 3rd to the bottom, and we now have a simplified answer with no negative exponents. So again, only the j had the negative, so only the j moved to the bottom. Okay, so what about this next one? How do we combine the exponents? We're going to take the top exponent and subtract the bottom. So again, if you need to go over to the side to do your fractions, 3 over 4 minus 1 over 2, get a common denominator. You get 3/4 minus 2/4, which will give us y to the 1/4 as our answer. Someone tell me what you think this one's going to be. Okay, so I heard a to the negative 8, b to the 5th. And then because we had the negative exponent here, we move just the negative exponent to the bottom. So we have b to the 5th over a to the 8th. Okay, this one, anyone not know how we got negative 8? Okay, so the step that's in between here, that if you need to write, a to the negative 3 minus 5 and b to the 7 minus 2. So we're taking the top exponent of a, subtracting the bottom one. So negative 3 minus 5 is how we got negative 8. Okay, it is really common. We always want to make everything positive, but we have to let the numbers tell us what it is. Okay, let's do one more here. So here we have a negative exponent, but we also have it outside of a parentheses with a product. So there's a couple ways you can go about this. We can do our power of a product property and put that negative 2 to everything inside. So we'll get 3 to the negative 2, and here we'll have a power to a power, so it'll become g to the negative 8. But both of these are negative, so when both of them are negative, they both have to go to the bottom. And if everything goes to the bottom, we have to put a 1 placeholder on top. So since both of these had the negative, we had to move them both. The last step here would just be to square 3, so 1 over 9g to the 8th. Okay, any questions so far on dividing or negative exponents? Okay, so then our last property is, what do we do when we have a power of a quotient? Do you guys know what the word quotient means? It's another way to say division, yes. Quotient is specifically the answer to a division problem. Yeah. Okay, so what happens when we have a power of a quotient? So we have a division problem with a power outside, or a fraction with a power on the outside. Anyone think they might know what to do with that? Either one of you two? Let's go. Let's say it. Is that what you're going to say? Okay, so we just take that power and we put it to the top and we put it to the bottom. A lot like the product one, except we put it to parts of the fraction. So if we had 4/3 squared, 4 to the second over 3 to the second, 16 over 9. A to the 2/3 over 5, all to the third power. So again, we have a power to a power when we put this through to the top. What was that?
8 to the 7th and 5 to the
Do you remember what 5 to the third is?
125.
125. So when we multiply 2/3, remember times 3 over 1, we end up with 6 over 3, which reduces to 2. Or if you cross cancel, you can cross cancel and get 2. Okay, next one, 4 over x to the third squared. So how can we rewrite that one?
X to the 6th.
4 to the second, x to the sixth, and we would just make that into 16 over x to the sixth. Okay, last one here. And this one's going to combine a lot of stuff. Because a lot of times it's not just one rule at a time. It's usually like 3 or 4 of them at a time.
Um, 2 to the negative 3rd power and x to the negative 18th power over y to the negative 12th power.
Good. So put that -3 to everything on both the top and the bottom. So we kind of had a mixture in that one step of a power of a quotient as well as on top a power of a product as well as a power to a power. So that was a lot of steps or a lot of properties all in one, and that's okay to do. If you need to write out more steps in between this here to here, that's okay, just to make sure you keep them straight. So then everything has a negative exponent. So what do we have to do? We have to move everything. So the 2 to the third will come to the bottom, x to the 18th will come to the bottom, and y to the 12th will move to the top. So if it's on the bottom and it's negative, it moves up. If it's on the top and it's negative, it moves down. So no matter where it is, if it's negative, it goes to the other side of the fraction. And then the last step here would just be to figure out what is 2 to the third. And that's 8. And that would be your final answer.